Travel in D&D is usually only as interesting as the travel encounters the players have along the way. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my process for creating standalone encounters that are exciting and interesting for players to experience, even if they don't feed into the larger campaign storyline. By the way, this video is brought to you by the Tales Arcane Wildergrove Kickstarter. This fall, I'm kickstarting a high-quality, beautifully illustrated setting guide. It's a 200-page digital release with a print-friendly version, and the more backing we get, the more appendices and extensions we'll add on. Wildergrove is best summed up as Redwall meets Eberron, warlike woodland animals living in the Napoleonic era with a lot of steampunk technology. It includes new subclasses like the Riverboat Gambler and the Warrior Librarian, an overhauled alignment system, new roleplay mechanics, horrifying homebrew monsters, and a lot more. If you want to follow the pre-launch page to be notified when we go live in fall, hit the link below this video. The big mistake I see people make with travel encounters is to assume that the purpose of a travel encounter is just to throw combat at your players to break up the monotony of travel. Now, a combat-focused encounter can be fun, and especially early on, players might enjoy a brief encounter with some wolves on the road, but over time, these low-stakes, contextless combat encounters are going to feel very stale. Now, I believe there are 3 keys to a good travel encounter in D&D, and if you can include one or more of these 3 keys, your players are going to have a good time. Here are the keys. A good encounter should tell the players something about the world, and or build a sense of player agency, and or surprise the players in some way. We're going to go through these keys one at a time, and I'm going to show you how you can unlock both roleplay and combat encounters with each one. An encounter that tells the players something about the world could be very roleplay focused. For example, they're travelling along the road and they see a wandering merchant coming down the road towards them. They stop, they barter with the merchant, maybe they swap some gossip and stories, and the merchant tells them information about the surrounding area and also about the particular location to which the players are travelling. It just happens that that's where the merchant came from. This is a travel encounter, but there's no combat. We've just got an interesting NPC, a chance to trade, maybe get some goods, get some gold, and most importantly, the chance to get information that could help the players later on. I did this in one of my own campaigns. The players were on their way to a town that was occupied by a dangerous faction, and by talking to this merchant beforehand, they were able to get really useful information about the faction and about people they could contact who they could trust within the town. Now, a combat encounter can perform exactly the same function. The players are traveling along the road, and let's say they encounter some bandits. It's a classic bandit encounter, but let's then make it a bit more interesting. These bandits are all dressed in tattered military uniform. They're deserters from a war going on in the north against orcish incursions. The orcish horde is battling against the realm, and these guys have fled south. They're now working as bandits. The players go up against them, fight them, kill them, and afterwards they go through the bandits' pockets. And as well as some oddments of gold and jewellery maybe stolen off other victims, the players find a letter. The letter is an unfinished message written for the bandit's mother. He was going to post it, but he never got the chance. In the letter, he explains his feelings of shame having deserted his post, but says the war cannot be won. The king is lying about it. They're going to lose. The orcs are going to come south, and he wants to get enough money from banditry to try and move his mum further south away from the advancing horde. At the end of this simple bandit encounter, the players have a real sense of immersion in the world. These weren't just random bandits. These were real people with their own personal problems. And the players have got this really interesting information about the state of the world as a wider setting. They know there's a war ongoing. Maybe they already had that information, but now they know that the war is going badly, and that at some point in the future, maybe as a major part of the campaign, an orcish horde could soon be flooding down from the north. Even a pretty basic travel encounter can leave the players with a deeper sense of how the world works around them. So that's key number 1. Let's go into key number 2. Now, I'm always looking for ways to give the players a stronger sense of agency in my world. What do I mean by player agency? Well, A, it's the sense that your choices are shaping your own story, and B, it's the sense that your choices are shaping the world around you. And a great way to build player agency is through travel encounters. Let's stick with those bandits for now as our example. One of the worst things about traditional travel encounters is the way they push combat onto the players. The players are walking down the road, minding their own business. The bandits jump out and attack them, and suddenly, whether they like it or not, the players are now in the middle of a fight. There's no player agency. The simplest way to massively improve this situation is to let the players choose whether or not they engage in the encounter. They're walking down the road, they see the bandits off in the distance, but the bandits are engaged in robbing someone else. Or maybe the bandits are currently sorting out the spoils of a recent robbery. They've got a chest on the ground that they're opening up and they're handing out the goods. They've not noticed the players yet. This gives the players a chance to decide what they want to do. Maybe they're just going to hide in the bushes, wait until the bandits go back to their camp, and then sneak on without a fight, feeling clever and feeling that they've almost outsmarted the DM, which is no bad thing. Or maybe they're going to come up with a cunning plan to maximize their advantage, maximize the surprise, and then attack the bandits anyway. Most players are going to jump at the opportunity to be clever, come up with a strategy to attack the bandits, get them off guard, and the bandits are probably going to end up dying anyway. But this way, your players made the choice. This is an example of player agency. It's not something you, as the GM, thrust upon your players. As I said earlier though, another good way to build a sense of player agency is to show the players that their previous choices are still echoing out to shape the world around them, and this is a great thing to do in smaller roleplay encounters. Maybe the players saved a town from a dragon recently, and as a result, displaced people are starting to return to the area. The players might encounter a group of refugees who had to flee from the dragon and are now coming back to their homes, and these people might not realize they're talking to their saviors, but they can have this wonderful conversation where they're talking to the players about how happy they are to be coming back, and the players know that that's the consequence of their choices and actions. Another really simple way to do this is to have the players encounter a travelling bard who is singing the songs or telling the tales of the players' recent adventures. And maybe they're even singing and telling a slightly altered or exaggerated version of those events. So the players can either choose to fan those rumours or set them straight, or just let the minstrel continue as they were doing already. But again, the player gets that sense that they have done things in the world, and now through this small encounter they're getting a little reminder that there's feedback. They do stuff and the world changes. Of course, there are subtler ways to do this as well. In one of my campaigns, my players opened a new gateway between the material plane and the Feywild, and a few sessions later they encountered a merchant on the road, and among the merchant's goods were many items sourced from the Feywild. And though the merchant didn't know exactly what role the players had played in that situation, he was now benefiting from the fact that trade was flowing freely between the two planes, and the players saw that the world had shifted a little as a result of something they chose to do. Whether it's through combat, whether it's through roleplay, or even just small details that the players pass on their travels, any kind of encounter that tells the players that their choices matter is, in my opinion, a good encounter. Now, let's go to the third and final key. If you don't want to give your players new information about the world, or you can't think of a way to underline player agency, at the very least, a good encounter should surprise your players. One of the problems with the proverbial 1d6 wolves attack is that from the moment the first wolf howl is heard echoing across the forest, the players know how the encounter is going to end. Wolves attack, players kill wolves, players get XP, encounter comes to an end. Now that's not very interesting, but it can be a good place to start. If you want to apply this key of surprising players, get one of those classic low-level monsters on the road situations and then take it in a new direction. Wolves attack, players kill wolves. Players notice that the wolves are wearing metal collars inscribed with glowing arcane runes. Players follow the trail the wolves left back through the forest and find the hideout of an evil druid who is experimenting with strange magic to create animal thralls. Players fight and kill the druid. Already we've got a pretty solid encounter here, but maybe we take it one step further. Players rummage through the druid's papers and find correspondence with a wealthy anonymous patron in a nearby town who's been funding the experiments. Now we've had a very surprising encounter that the players could not have predicted from the start, and we've laid the hook of a promising quest further down the line. And of course this works just as well for roleplay. The players pass a tent by the roadside and find that it's a pop-up bar. They go in for a couple of drinks and then the tavern keeper is called away on urgent business, and since the players are the only ones there who haven't had that much to drink yet, he begs them to come behind the bar and hold down the fort until he gets back. The players came in here expecting a pretty bog standard roleplay tavern experience, and now they're behind the bar serving drinks, trying to break up a fight between two drunken half-orcs. And then let's take it one step further. The tent bursts open and in rushes the local guards. This whole thing is unlicensed and illegal, and the barkeep knew the guards were coming, so he slipped away and left the players to deal with the mess. Again, surprise. Now, of course, you don't have to use these keys in every encounter. If you've got a fun idea for an encounter that works on its own, then go for it. But if you're finding it hard transitioning from the more basic 1d6 wolves attack encounters to something a bit more colourful and interesting, starting with these keys can be, I find, a really helpful approach. I often take the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide, roll in some of the boring encounter tables in there, and then take whatever they give me and try to plug these keys into those encounters. If I get some random monsters, try to find a way to put a twist on it, or to use that encounter to tell the players something about the world. Anyhow, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching, and a massive thank you to all the wonderful people who support me over on the Tales Arcane Patreon, making all of this possible. If you like what I do here and you're interested in how I approach D&D, then maybe consider heading to the link below this video and checking out my Wildergrove Kickstarter. As I said before, the pre-launch page is up, and if you want to see what I'm doing there and get notified when we go live this fall, that would be much appreciated. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.